Buddhism is an ancient tradition with answers to life's biggest questions today. Why do we suffer? How do we relate to other beings? And how do we make the world a happier and more peaceful place for everyone? Our mission at BDK America is to help people understand Buddhism better. Are you looking to start learning about Buddhism or dig deeper? BDK America offers free books and videos for peoples of all ages and levels. Our most popular book, The Teaching of Buddha, is available to read in English and 46 other languages in physical, PDF, and audiobook formats. Visit our website for our latest publications and order your own free copy today.
It's great to have you join us as we take a final look at the topic of the first mark of existence. All conditioned phenomena is suffering, or as many of you have heard me say by now, life is a bumpy road. In previous shows, we looked at the various kinds of suffering and stressed the need for us to face up to them. Last week as well, we learned some meditative techniques for dealing with our suffering. Today, I would like to continue with this positive approach to the issue of suffering. In doing so, I wish to restate a point. The Buddha did not promise that by following his Dharma, the teachings, people will be able to prevent aging, illness, death, being separated from loved ones, or having to meet up with people we dislike. These conditions that lead to suffering are simply a part of life. In life, they just happen. We can't avoid experiencing them. However, what we can control is how we respond to them. We can respond either by suffering or not by suffering. This is another way of expressing, once again, one of my favorite phrases, difficulties are inevitable, but suffering is optional. For this reason, the Buddha did not perform miracles, such as bringing the dead back to life or curing illness. Some people may say, therefore, that Buddha was weak, lacking spiritual powers. Well, for me, it is precisely for this reason that I find him realistic and believable. Given this position that the Dharma, the teachings, helps us to determine how we respond to difficulties, we all have the potential to turn our experiences of suffering into a resource for living more deeply and for experiencing life closer to how life truly is. The potential to do so is supported in a Buddhist metaphor known as one water and four views. Well, let's say there is water like this. This water would appear differently to those at four different levels of spiritual development. A hungry ghost, who is the least developed among them, would see the water as pus and phlegm, certainly not something to be desired. A fish would see the water as an abode, a place to live. For a human being, the water is a drink, something to satisfy bodily needs. And for a heavenly being, viewing from the highest spiritual level, the water appears as a pond filled with shimmering jewels. The heavenly beings are not yet fully awakened, like bodhisattvas or Buddhas, but are highest spiritually among the four, higher than human beings. For them, therefore, the water appears like a bed of jewels, which is a far cry from the pus and phlegm of the hungry ghosts. In real life, aren't there such differences among the people we know? Some, like the hungry ghosts, are always taking a negative point of view and forever complaining about anything and everything. On the other hand, there are others, like the heavenly beings, who face difficulties in life with a right view and are able to turn them into a resource for living life more deeply and fully. So let's make it our challenge to approach life's difficulties with the perspective of the heavenly beings. I wish to share with you the cases of two inspiring individuals whose lives brim with the water of a pond of shimmering jewels. The first example of someone who dealt with suffering to live deeply and with insight is Morrie Schwartz, an inspirational person and the subject of the best-selling book published some years ago entitled Tuesdays with Morrie, an old man, a young man, and life's greatest lesson. The book is mostly a conversation between a college professor and his former student named Mitch Albom, who is also the author of the book. Morrie Schwartz is a college professor who learns that he has ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, leaving him with less than 1 year to live. Mitch had become a successful and busy newspaper sports columnist. He had not kept in touch with his professor as he once promised at his graduation some 15 years ago. Then one day, by chance, Mitch saw Morrie on a nationally televised program. Morrie had drawn attention for his acts and words of courage and inspiration in the face of fatal illness. For Mitch, here was one professor in college who had touched and inspired him. In learning of the professor's situation, Mitch felt compelled to go see him. Thereafter, the two of them decided to meet on a regular basis, then on. In the course of their weekly Tuesday meetings, Morrie shares his thoughts on many topics, including family, friends, and death. In the course of these discussions with Mitch, Morrie, who is not a Buddhist, by the way, introduces some Buddhist ideas. One that is pertinent for our discussion has to do with its understanding of not becoming attached to things because all things are impermanent. Morrie then goes on to explain that non-attachment does not mean to become indifferent or to avoid things out of fear or pain. Instead, Morrie encourages one to immerse oneself in the fear, to experience the fear to its fullest. By doing so, we are better able to accept our illness or death, which then allows us to see things more clearly in a larger perspective and let go of the fear and pain. Consequently, Morrie suggests, with a mental space provided by our act of stepping away, we would be in a better position to deal with our illness or death more effectively with openness, patience, and even humor. Morrie stresses that this approach applies to other difficulties in life, such as feelings of loneliness or our inability to express our true feelings to our loved ones. He encourages us to turn on a faucet, wash yourself with the emotion. His expression may be somewhat unorthodox from the standpoint of traditional Buddhism. However, Morrie, in my view, epitomizes the spirit of the first mark of existence of turning difficulties into a resource for living deeper and fuller lives. And Morrie conveys this so well when he says to Mitch, but it's like I keep telling you, when you learn how to die, you learn how to live. Christine is another person who faced up to her encounter with suffering. She was a member of the Southern Alameda County Buddhist Church in Union City, California, where I spent a wonderful and memorable 3 years as the resident priest of that temple. When I met her, she struck me as an extremely lively and cheerful person. She had been confined to a wheelchair for at least 10 years as a result of a car accident in her late teens. Christine herself told me how the Buddhist teachings had helped her through the difficulties, and she truly had gone through some unbelievably tough times. One day I was told that Christine was suffering from a severe case of bed sores and that she would have to be confined to her bed for an entire year. I just couldn't imagine how she would feel being confined to her bed for 365 days. I immediately paid her a visit, armed with all the appropriate things to say to comfort her. As I entered her room, her cheerful demeanor surprised me. We chatted for a while about different things, including her condition and how she would spend that year in bed. As I said goodbye and was about to leave, Christine cheerfully said to me, "Sensei, don't worry about me. I'll be just fine. I have eyes so I can read books, watch TV, and gaze out onto the field and trees outside the window. I also have ears so I can listen to my favorite music and programs on the radio. And I have a brain, so I can think and imagine about a lot of things. So don't worry about me. I found that our roles had been reversed, and I left Christine more inspired and energized than before I went. She had taught me something very important. Christine, if you happen to be watching, please know that you were a Buddha to me, and your words continue to inspire me. So we have Maury and Christine, two inspiring individuals who, despite their condition, were mentally and spiritually free and unrestrained. Both of these serve as shining examples that show us that difficulties do not automatically have to become suffering, as stated in today's scriptural passage. In Buddhism, suffering refers to a condition where one is restrained and without freedom. Accordingly, regardless of how difficult one's condition might be, it is not suffering if one's life is not restricted and freedom exists in daily life. Let us exercise our mental and spiritual freedom to consider the message of the first mark of existence and acknowledge that life is indeed a bumpy road. Next, we must face up to and transform these bumps along the road as a resource for living our lives more fully and deeply, with greater wisdom and compassion for ourselves and for others. In our next show, Venerable Su Manasara, a Buddhist monk, will rejoin us to share ritual chanting from the Theravada tradition. You'll find it melodic, soothing, and inspiring. Do join us. I'm sure you'll be glad you did.
We at Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai pursue peace and happiness for people around the world. We have published the Buddhist teachings into 41 languages and donated our publication to hotels and other facilities in 55 countries. We would like to share the Buddhist teachings with people around the world. That's our mission. Visit our website for more information.